Hello everybody, Kelly Rice here, but I write under my pen name, KM Rice, and welcome to my author vlog. I'm very excited. By now, those of you who follow me regularly should know that I am launching Afterworld Book 1, Ophelia, on May 18th. And if you haven't seen the teaser trailer yet, then once you finish this episode, go to my channel. I have a playlist for book trailers, and you can watch it there. It's only like 22 seconds, but I'm very excited and proud of it, and right now I'm feeling the excitement of finally putting this book series out in the world, but there's also a lot of terror that's creeping into my veins, and I'm just trying to be in denial of it right now. But this episode isn't about that. This episode is this wasn't a question that was sent in. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while. And it is about traveling. And how traveling can help your writing. And in particular, how to, for lack of a better way of saying it, how to write while traveling for writing research. This is something that I have learned over the course of, I would say, a little over a decade. I took my first trip to Ireland in 2006, and if you know anything about me or where my passions lie and where some of my fascinations lie, it's in the Celtic peoples, it's in Ireland, it's in Scotland, it's in Wales and Cornwall and all that too, but I haven't had the pleasure yet of visiting those countries. I'm not quite sure where this fascination comes from. That is in part my heritage, but also I think there's a lot of unmined territory in Celtic mythology, and it captivates me. What can I say? The landscapes are also absolutely gorgeous. So when I went the first time, it was with the intention of finishing a project that I was working on that I can tell you about because it never truly came to fruition. I was too young, and I was trying to take on too much. And I was going to write a book of... Actually, that's not entirely true. It did come to fruition in the form of a screenplay. That hasn't been optioned or anything. But I did write it all out as a screenplay. I almost forgot about that. That's embarrassing. But sometimes this stuff comes out of my head and it's like, once I put it on paper, it's done. But that's another subject. So, long story short, I was in Ireland just because I wanted to go, and I went with my best friend and we booked a tour, and I thought for my first trip I'm going to go on this tour and I'm going to see all these places that I've read about and it's going to be awesome, and I had a little journal that I wrote in every single day, and it was like this thick and I filled it. And in fact I had two. I had that one which was kind of like this big by this big, like probably 6 by 9, and I had a smaller one that was more these dimensions. And that smaller one I kept on hand all the time so that I could just jot down notes as the tour guide said things. Things that were interesting to me or things that I thought I might use in a book. So that was my method back when I was like, 22? And on a tour around Ireland. If you are going someplace with the specific desire to do some research, and by research, of course, that entails writing down observations and impressions and facts and visiting museums and things like that. I'm not sure if I would recommend doing what I did the first time, which was go on a tour. I think it was 6 or 7 days, and we went all over the southwest of Ireland, which was great. I saw a lot. I went to a lot of places. I made great friends on the tour. It was overall an amazing experience as a young American being abroad for the first time. I saved up for it by changing diapers forever. I was a nanny, and I had 2 different nannying jobs basically. So when people would ask me, how'd you pay for this? I'd say, because you're a student, you know. I'd say I paid for it by changing diapers. And maybe I should have just had a diaper on. That's okay. Maybe you couldn't even see what happened, but I'm gonna smell like lemon zinger tea now, and so is my chair. But you know what? That's what keeps this vlog exciting, isn't it, folks? You never know what's gonna happen next. I get all excited talking about changing diapers and woo, there's tea everywhere. So, now I've lost my train of thought, other than it can be affordable. So this is kind of going to be a travel advice slash research advice vlog episode, I'm realizing, because as you may know, if you've been following me for some time, I did return to Ireland, and 2 more times. And in fact, I have the great pleasure and excitement to share that I'm going back in April. So if you watch my social media, you will see Irish posts for a few weeks in April, bleeding into May. I'm going to be spending Beltane there. I'm excited for that. That's one of the great benefits of traveling. Boy, I am wet. And I don't have... Oh, I do have a tissue. Okay. I can salvage some of this here. That is one of the great benefits of traveling, is not spilling tea, but you make friends. And when you make friends places, they offer you free places to stay, and they invite you to come visit. And I have had the incredible fortune of that happening for me in Ireland. And I'm excited to go back and see everyone. And of course, if you guys have followed my career, you know the same can be said for New Zealand as well. Luckily for me, Ireland's a little bit closer, a little less expensive. And like I said, once you make friends in an area, if they are able, then it does really help with your travel expenses to be able to stay with people. And plus, if you're trying to absorb the atmosphere of a place, that's really what you want. Another option is Airbnb, because you can rent out a room or you can rent out an entire place, and just kind of be one of the locals and hang out in an area and really absorb the pace of life, absorb the color, absorb the landscape and the language, the sights, the sounds, the scents. And I tried to do that on my second trip to Ireland, foolishly thinking if I booked 2 nights in a place, that would be enough for me to experience it, but it's not. So that's another piece of travel advice I have for you. If you are going anywhere and you do want to have that time to absorb, you need more than 2 nights, okay? Give yourself like 4. Give yourself 4, you know, and I'm saying because everyone's got a budget, everyone's got time constraints, etc. Of course it would be great to go spend a week or a month somewhere, but if, you know, barring that, give yourself more than 2 nights to experience a place, to truly fall into the rhythm of it and experience it. My other piece of advice, how to get to these places. Now, again, I can only speak from my own experience, and that would be New Zealand and Ireland. And both Aer Lingus, which is Ireland's airline, and Air New Zealand have websites that have this wonderful feature. I don't think you can do it on your phone, but you can on your computer, where you can look at a graph. So say you don't have exact travel dates. Say you just want to travel sometime in the shoulder season, which for me was April. So the shoulder season means that it's before peak tourist times, and that's usually when you can find not only cheaper flights, cheaper hotel stays, cheaper car rentals, etc. Those 2 airlines have an actual graph, so you can say, show me the month of April, and you can see when are the cheapest days to fly. And that's what I've done. And if you are able to have a flexible schedule, I think that that's the way to go. It can make traveling so much more economical and affordable, even just because usually the flight's the biggest hurdle. And so that's my recommendation. That said, I want to be clear about one thing. I know a lot of you are supporters on Patreon. I want to make sure that you know that I'm very scrupulous about how I use my income, and I would never take my Patreon money and abscond on a holiday or anything like that. So rest assured that you're not paying for me to go like sip martinis in Havana or something. I don't know. Can I get to Havana? They've opened it up to Americans, haven't they? I think. I don't know. I should know these things. But anyway, back to the subject. I want to show you pieces from one of my travel journals. So this is what I kept last time I was traveling, and as you can see, ooh, okay, there's a feather in it from something. I should remember, but I don't. And here's 2 little pieces of paper from like historical sites I went to. They gave you little handouts. And here's just an example. Oh, you can't even see it. So I chose a journal that I could lock, so I could close it and put this fixture there so that it's closed, it's sealed. I can carry it around with me, and anything I put inside isn't going to come out. This is a nice size, it's easy to carry. Writing lots of little notes in there. A lot of this is just telling like what my mom and my sister and I did while we were traveling. But those are the things that matter, not only just as a tourist and as someone recording memories for posterity. Sometimes there might be a grain of something in there that you will want to return to, and that can help inspire you. But there'll be other times, I'm looking for an example, but I don't exactly. Oh, here's one. We went to Newgrange, which was a Paleolithic, or Neolithic site rather, and I was drawing some of the symbols that I saw there in an example of how the light during the winter solstice would come into the building. Sorry about that, as often happens. I had to delete an old vlog to make room for the rest of this new one. So, returning to my advice on how to keep a travel journal, yes, you will have the I just saw something cool. You will have the everyday things that you'll be recording for posterity, which I think are still incredibly fun, because no matter how much you think you will remember everything, you won't. And it's delightful then to go back and reread what you've written. Here I have a clover from the cliffs of Moher in County Clare. Look at that. So that's what's also really cool, is you can do things like press flowers, blades of grass, like you saw I had a feather in here. Let me see, where's something else I wrote? I'm not quite sure what I was describing. Past 9 and getting dark, it was high time for our well-deserved pint of the black stuff, the first of this trip. So much better than home, and a pasta dinner at my favourite Dublin pub, Darky Kelly's. The atmosphere couldn't have been better. There was a group of musicians playing gorgeous, lively trad music, not meant for tourist ears, and a group of boisterous old men shouting away at each other. The musicians played Come Out Ye Black and Tans, much to my shock and delight, along with Athen Rye, Whiskey in the Jar, which was the 3rd time we heard it in 3 nights. So maybe it was for tourists after all. And several jigs and reels that I knew. It was incredible. Wow. Now my wrist is aching, and I'm a touch carsick. We're nearly to Galway. Amazing that one journal entry is enough to fill the time it takes to cross the country. Now on to the next portion of our grand Celtic adventure. So you do find that because you are present and enjoying what you're doing as you're traveling, you will be behind in your journal keeping. At least that's what I found. I fell very behind because, like I said, I was out and about and enjoying stuff, but you couldn't always write about what happened that day on that day or the next day. So what I ended up doing was, when I got home, then I would date the day that I was continuing the story of my travel. Like this one's Monday, October 10th. So I came home at the end of August, so that's several months after the fact, which was more belated than I recommend. But at least I took the effort and I went back and I continued telling the narrative, the story of everything that happened while it was much fresher in my memory than it would be, say, now. You know, now it would be, I'd be like, I don't know, I think we went to the castle that day, I'm not quite sure. So I tend to keep travel journals for that reason alone, just to maintain the memories of what happened, because then when you go back and you read it like that, like I said, I have no idea what I'm about to read here, and now I remember all that. I remember hearing those songs, I remember being at Darky Kelly's, I remember that food. But I don't know if I would have in that order if I hadn't written it down. And then you get kind of fanatical and you're like, I need to write everything down in life, but you know, life doesn't work that way. But when you're traveling, you've invested this time and this distance and this money, and you want to make sure that you are relishing it, I suppose. So that's something that I think people who even aren't writers would be doing, is keeping a little travel journal. But when you are keeping a travel journal as a writer, say you want to write about a particular place and you go and visit the place. And it doesn't have to be an international trip. It can be somewhere within your own country. It could be somewhere in your own town. The types of notes that you should keep would be snippets of conversation that you hear around you. How are the locals speaking? What are they talking about? What kind of vocabulary do they use that is similar, that is different than yours? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? How warm is the sun? Is the sun out at all? These are little details that you can then use to enrich your descriptions of a place when you're writing about it. And they're the place details that I find as a reader really help me imagine that I'm there. So again, I recommend taking a small journal, like, okay, this one's kind of thick. This one's thicker than I would prefer. But a thinner, small journal, maybe something that can fit in your pocket, fit in your purse, something that you could just whip out and jot down in messy handwriting. It doesn't have to be nice. Little notes as you're there. They have a seagull here that I don't have the time to look up the name of right now, but it's got black tips on the wing and an orange tip on its beak. And you just put that note, and maybe later you'll go back and you'll look it up, and when you're writing about that place, you'll have the name, and you'll have learned something as well. So I do recommend something that you can whip out at a moment's notice, jot down notes. If you do go on a tour, it's handy to have on hand to write down little notes. Like I said, I also usually bring a bigger journal to write in more extensively if I'm fortunate enough to get the time. Time is this fleeting thing, as always in life, isn't it? You always want more of it. And yet you want to be present and not doing things like writing down every single event, because then that takes you away from the moment, and it becomes a catch-22 kind of, like you're maybe not a catch-22, but are you defeating the point of experiencing it by distracting yourself from experiencing it by writing down your experience of it? It's kind of like, ooh, what a pretty flower, let me take a picture of it. You're distancing yourself from the flower, not just enjoying the flower because you're taking the picture, but then by having the picture, then you remember the flower. I don't have the answers, folks. I don't pretend to. I just say things, okay? And I just write stuff down. And I'm very excited for the opportunity to have another trip to the Emerald Isle. And like I said, follow me on social media for more wonderful pictures of Vera. And also, you can subscribe to this channel. If I can, I will be uploading videos from there. And you can also support this vlog for $1 a month on Patreon, or for a few more dollars if you find that you want more access to my insanity and my writing. But I leave that up to you. Because I am kind of crazy. So from me and my most recent travelogue, look at the back. Beautiful handmade leather-bound journal. Celtic horses. Absolutely gorgeous. For me and this beautiful journal, I wish you not only a very fond farewell, but happy and safe travels on all of your adventures. Again, I strongly encourage you to get out there into the world, to make friends in places, and to just be open. Just go out with an open heart and see what the universe brings to you. And it may be more affordable than you think. Have a look at these websites. Airlines are dropping their prices all the time due to more competition, especially to Europe. See if there's something that you can afford and make it happen. But I warn you, travel is a dangerous bug. Once you get it, it never leaves. And you want more of it, and like I've said, you then bond with a place and you bond with the people there, and you need to go back. So it's an excuse and a wonderful reason to expand your writing skills. Alright, that's enough for me for today. Hope you guys are all well. I'll see you next time.